Commander Kim Hyun-woo sipped his morning coffee and watched the asteroid mining robots work outside Taiyang 7 Station. The mechanical arms carved chunks of precious metals from floating rocks, just like every other day for the past 2 years. Space was quiet here, peaceful even. Earth felt like a distant memory, and Kim liked it that way. The first sign of trouble came from the communications array. Static filled the screens, then cleared to show something impossible. Massive ships hung in the void where empty space had been moments before. Not human ships. These were different. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Commander, you need to see this," called Technician Lee from the main console. His voice shook. Kim had never heard Lee sound scared before. The ships were enormous, easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest warships. Their hulls looked like they were made of crystal and metal fused together. Strange lights pulsed along their surfaces in patterns that hurt to look at directly. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds, scattered across the solar system. Kim's hands trembled as he activated the emergency beacon. Every human outpost needed to know about this. But as he reached for the transmitter, every screen in the station lit up with the same message. The face that appeared was not human. It had features that seemed almost familiar, but wrong in ways that made Kim's skin crawl. The eyes were too large, the skin too pale, and when it spoke, the words came in perfect English that sounded like it had been learned from textbooks. "Attention, primitive species of Salt 3. I am Zolthek, Supreme Commander of the Velthari, Empire's 4th Conquest Fleet. Your world and colonies now fall under our protection and guidance." Kim felt his coffee cup slip from his fingers. It floated away in the low gravity, forgotten. "Your species shows promise, despite your obvious limitations. We offer you the great honor of integration into our empire. You have 72 of your planetary rotations to evacuate all military installations and colonial outposts. Return to your birth world for proper processing and relocation." The alien's expression never changed, but somehow Kim sensed amusement behind those terrible eyes. "Do not mistake this for negotiation. We have conquered 347 worlds using this same process. Your cooperation will determine whether this transition occurs peacefully or requires correction." The transmission ended, leaving the station in deadly silence, back on Earth. Fleet Admiral Park Jimin stared at the same message in the underground command center beneath Seoul. Around the table sat the leaders of every major nation, their faces showing the same shock and disbelief that Park felt in his bones. "How many ships?" asked President Chen from the American delegation. "Our deep space sensors count at least 400 vessels," Park replied, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his stomach. "Maybe more." They appeared simultaneously at key points throughout the system: Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt, even near our outer research stations. "Weapons." This from the European representative. "Unknown, but the energy readings are..." Park paused, searching for words. "Our computers can't even process the full spectrum. Whatever technology they're using, it's centuries ahead of ours." In her laboratory beneath Seoul National University, Dr. Choi Mina ignored the emergency broadcasts and focused on her screens. While politicians argued and military leaders counted ships, she studied the alien transmission itself. Every word, every pixel, every frequency. The message had been broadcast simultaneously across multiple star systems. The technology required for that kind of coordination was staggering. But more interesting were the small details the aliens probably didn't think humans would notice. The transmission used human language perfectly, but the sentence structure followed patterns that suggested machine translation. They had studied humanity enough to speak to them, but not enough to understand them. That might be important. More troubling were the energy signatures embedded in the signal. Dr. Choi's instruments detected quantum frequencies that matched theoretical weapons designs she'd only seen in classified military research. These aliens didn't just have advanced technology, they had weapons that could crack planets. She pulled up historical data from the past 72 hours, right before the aliens appeared. Her sensors had detected gravitational anomalies throughout the solar system. Not random ones, they formed a precise mathematical pattern, like coordinates for a massive transportation network. The implications made her feel sick. This wasn't first contact with curious explorers. This was a military operation, planned and executed with the precision of conquerors who had done this many times before. Her computer chimed with an incoming message from the alien fleet. Not another broadcast. This one was directed specifically at Earth's scientific community. Your species' mathematical and technological development suggests potential value as auxiliary technicians. Compliance with integration protocols will result in favorable placement within Empire structure. Resistance will necessitate alternative processing methods. Dr. Choi deleted the message without responding. She had work to do. Somewhere in the alien transmission data was a weakness, a flaw, something humanity could use. There had to be. Outside her laboratory windows, Seoul's skyline glittered with emergency lights as the city prepared for war. In space, 400 alien ships waited with the patience of apex predators who had never known defeat. The countdown to humanity's deadline had begun. The 72-hour deadline passed in tense silence. Earth's governments had sent no response to the alien ultimatum, no surrender, no negotiation, nothing at all. In the command ship floating near Jupiter, Zalthak studied the readings with mild interest. Most species begged for more time or tried to bargain. These humans were different. Perhaps they did not understand the message. Their silence is their answer. Very well. We shall provide a demonstration of Valtheri, compassion. He selected a target from the tactical display. New Busan colony orbited a gas giant in the outer system. 53,000 humans lived there, mining fuel and growing food for other colonies. Small enough to destroy quickly, large enough to send a message. Begin the lesson. Captain Lee Donghyuk was checking supply routes near New Busan when his sensors screamed warnings. A Valtheri ship had moved into firing position above the colony. Lee knew many of the families down there. His own sister worked in the medical center. New Busan Control, this is Patrol 7. You need to evacuate. Immediately. Alien vessel approaching your position. The response came back calm and professional. Understood, Patrol 7. Evacuation protocols already active. Estimate 6 hours for full colony withdrawal. Lee watched the alien ship power up its weapons. The energy buildup was massive, enough to crack the small moon the colony sat on. 6 hours might as well be 6 years. New Busan, you don't have 6 hours. You have maybe 6 minutes. The colony's shields activated, a thin bubble of energy that had been designed to stop asteroid impacts. Against alien weapons, it would be like tissue paper in a hurricane. Lee armed his patrol ship's weapons and accelerated toward the alien vessel. His small guns couldn't hurt something that size, but maybe he could distract it long enough for some people to escape. It was stupid and hopeless, but he couldn't just watch. The alien weapon fired once. The beam lasted exactly 12 seconds. When it ended, New Busan colony was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. The small moon showed a perfectly round crater where 53,000 people had lived and worked and raised families. The crater glowed with residual heat that would last for decades. Lee's patrol ship drifted in space, its pilot staring at empty rock where a city had been moments before. His sister's last transmission still echoed in his headset. Tell Mom we're okay? Tell her we'll see her soon. The lesson was broadcast across every human communication channel. The message was simple. This is what happens to those who defy the Valthari Empire. Admiral Park received the footage in his command bunker, deep beneath Seoul. Around him, Officers and politicians watched the recording in horrified silence. An entire colony erased in seconds, as casually as stepping on an insect. "Launch Operation Steel Rain," Park ordered. His voice was quiet, but it carried clearly through the bunker. "Every ship we have, every weapon, right now. Sir, the fleet isn't fully prepared. We need at least 48 hours to coordinate properly." Park turned to look at his aide. The young man stepped back at what he saw in the Admiral's eyes. "They've just murdered 53,000 civilians as a warning. How many more warnings do you think they'll give us while we prepare properly?" Park activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, all stations, all personnel. This is Admiral Park. Launch immediately. Converge on Mars orbit. We end this today." The Earth Defense Fleet was humanity's pride. 200 ships built over 30 years, representing the best technology and bravest crews Earth could produce. Destroyers bristling with missile tubes, cruisers with particle beam weapons, and the massive dreadnought Sol, carrying enough firepower to level continents. They met the alien fleet above Mars, where the red planet served as a grim backdrop for humanity's first space battle. The human ships formed attack formations learned from centuries of naval warfare, while the alien vessels simply waited in perfect geometric patterns. Admiral Park stood on Sol's bridge and gave the order that would define humanity's future. "All ships, fire at will." The space between the fleets lit up with human weapons. Missiles streaked toward alien hulls while energy beams painted brilliant lines across the darkness. For a moment, Park allowed himself to hope as he watched the devastating barrage close on enemy targets. Then the alien shields activated. Every missile exploded, harmlessly against barriers of crackling energy. Every beam weapon scattered like light hitting a mirror. The alien ships hung in space completely undamaged, as if humanity's greatest weapons were nothing more than fireworks. The return fire was brief and precise. Alien beams, impossibly thin and bright, touched human ships for just seconds. Where they hit, metal boiled away, and atmosphere vented into space. The destroyer Incheon broke in half. The cruiser Daegu simply vanished in a ball of fire. In 90 seconds, half the Earth defense fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest scattered, their crews too shocked to maintain formation. Deep in her Seoul laboratory, Dr. Choi Mina watched the battle through military feeds while her computers analyzed every second of alien weapon fire. The shields that had stopped. Human attacks weren't random barriers. They pulsed in mathematical patterns, adjusting their frequency and intensity based on incoming threats. But patterns meant predictability, and predictability meant weakness. As alien ships began moving toward Earth for the final bombardment, Dr. Choi smiled grimly and reached for her emergency communicator. She had work to do. Captain Lee Dong-hyuk floated in the gutted remains of his patrol ship, watching alien vessels hunt through the asteroid belt. 3 weeks had passed since New Busan died, 3 weeks since Earth's fleet was shattered above Mars. Now he lived like a scavenger among the floating rocks, eating emergency rations and breathing recycled air that tasted like metal. His ship wasn't alone. Dozens of human vessels hid in the asteroid field, mining ships, cargo haulers, research boats, anything that had survived the initial attacks. Most were damaged. All were desperate. They called themselves the Ghost Fleet, though Lee thought Graveyard Fleet was more accurate. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, whispered Engineer Nam Tae-ho over the encrypted channel. His voice was barely audible, but in the silence of space, whispers carried death. Single Valthari cruiser, moving slow. Lee checked his sensors. The alien ship was massive, its crystal hull gleaming as it searched methodically through the rocks, hunting survivors. Its shields shimmered with deadly energy, and its weapons could vaporize his little patrol boat without effort, which made it perfect. "All ships, listen carefully," Lee transmitted to the hidden fleet. "We're going to try something stupid, The plan was insane. Take the mining ship heavy lifter, pack it with explosives and nuclear waste, then ram it straight into the alien cruisers. Engines. The ship's pilot, an old woman named Park Sunya, volunteered without hesitation. My grandson was on New Busan, she said simply. I have debts to pay. While Park Sunya prepared her final flight, Lee and 3 other ships positioned themselves around the alien vessel. They couldn't hurt it with weapons, but they could be annoying, like insects buzzing around a giant's head. The attack began when Heavy Lifter roared out of the asteroid field at full speed, its mining lasers firing wildly. The Valthari cruiser turned its attention to the obvious threat, shields strengthening, automatically. Standard defensive protocols, perfectly logical, which was exactly what Lee hoped for. While the alien ship focused on Heavy Lifter, the 3 patrol boats struck from different angles, not with weapons, with their own hulls. Lee drove his ship straight into the cruiser's sensor array, while the others rammed communication dishes and weapon ports. The impacts barely scratched the alien vessel's armor, but they created chaos, confusion, a moment of uncertainty in the alien ship's perfect systems. In that moment, Heavy Lifter struck. Park Sunya's ship, loaded with mining explosives and reactor waste, punched through the cruiser's weakened rear shields and buried itself deep in the engine section. The explosion was beautiful and terrible, a flower of atomic fire that split the alien vessel in half. Lee watched the wreckage tumble through space and felt something cold settle in his chest. They had won, but the victory tasted like ashes. Good people had died to kill their enemies. This wasn't war as he understood it. This was murder and suicide wrapped together. But it worked, down on Earth. Dr. Choi Mina worked 18 hours a day in her underground laboratory, surviving on stimulants and pure determination. The alien bombardment had turned Seoul into rubble above her, but the deep bunkers still had power and equipment. She had finally cracked the secret of Valthari shields. They're not actually shields, she explained to the handful of scientists still alive to listen. They're prediction systems. The barriers adjust to incoming threats based on mathematical calculations. Perfect defense against organized military attacks. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, showing wave patterns and frequency equations that would have taken years to understand before the war. Desperation made for excellent teachers. But what happens when you feed random data into a system designed for predictable inputs? Dr. Choi smiled, and there was no warmth in it. It breaks. The quantum disruptors she designed looked like simple metal boxes, small enough to carry in a backpack, but they broadcast chaotic energy signatures that confused alien prediction systems. When Valthari's shields tried to adapt to multiple random frequencies at once, they overloaded and collapsed. The first field test took place in the ruins of Busan, where Lieutenant Yoon Soo-bin led a team of survivors against an alien patrol. They had no uniforms, no ranks, no proper equipment, just ordinary people with improvised weapons, and nothing left to lose. Yoon's team included a baker, 2 teachers, a mechanic, and a 12-year-old girl named Kim Min-ru, who had lost her parents in the bombardment. They moved through sewers and bombed out buildings, carrying Dr. Choi's disruptors and homemade explosives. When the alien patrol entered the kill zone, Min-ru activated the quantum disruptor from her position in a collapsed school. The Valthari soldiers' personal shields flickered and died, leaving them vulnerable for exactly 30 seconds. It was enough. The humans attacked from everywhere at once, from manholes, from ruined buildings, from piles of debris. They used kitchen knives and hunting rifles, Molotov cocktails made from cooking oil, bombs built from fertilizer, and old electronics. Nothing fancy, nothing high-tech, but it worked. The alien patrol died in the streets of Busan, killed by weapons. Their advanced computers had never been programmed to understand, in his command ship orbiting Earth. Zulthek stared at casualty reports that made no sense. His forces were losing battles to enemies who should have been extinct weeks ago. The humans weren't following any known military doctrine. They had no central command, no supply lines, no organization that his strategic computers could analyze and counter. Computer, calculate victory probability for current engagement parameters, he ordered. The response came back immediately. Error. Insufficient data. Enemy tactics do not match any known patterns in military database. For 300 conquests. Zoltek had never seen that message before. His perfect war machine was being destroyed by chaos itself, and he had no idea how to stop it. Engineer Nam Teho stood in the cargo bay of the transport ship Golden Dragon, watching his crew weld nuclear warheads to the hull. The ship had once carried grain and medical supplies between colonies. Now it carried death, packed into every available space like a flying bomb. "How many can we fit?" asked his assistant, a teenage girl who had learned to build explosives from online tutorials. 43 warheads, plus conventional charges in the cargo hold, Nam replied, checking his calculations again. Should be enough to crack their flagship's armor. The girl nodded seriously. She had been a music student 6 months ago. Now she could build bombs that would make professional soldiers weep. War had a way of teaching new skills quickly. Golden Dragon was just one of hundreds of ships being converted in hidden shipyards throughout the asteroid belt. Cargo haulers became missiles. Passenger liners became bombs. Mining vessels became kinetic. Weapons designed to ram alien ships at incredible speeds. The humans had learned something important about their enemies. Valthari computers could predict military tactics, but they struggled with pure insanity. Dr. Choi Minna worked in her new laboratory, built inside a hollowed-out asteroid that tumbled through space like a piece of cosmic debris. Her latest creation wasn't a weapon in any traditional sense. It was something far more dangerous. A computer virus designed specifically for alien technology. The Valthari use quantum-linked networks across their entire fleet. She explained to the small team of programmers who had survived Earth's bombardment. Everything connects to everything else. Perfect efficiency. She smiled, and her assistants felt cold despite the asteroid's warm air recycling systems. Dr. Choi's smiles had become frightening things during the war. Perfect efficiency also means perfect vulnerability. One infected system can spread to every ship in their fleet within minutes. The virus was elegant in its simplicity. It didn't try to destroy alien computers directly. Instead, it made them doubt their own sensors. Friendly ships would register as enemies. Empty space would show massive human fleets. Real threats would disappear from displays entirely. Chaos. Pure, beautiful chaos. The first major test came when Captain Lee Donghyuk led 30 converted mining ships against the Valthari battle group defending Jupiter's moons. His vessels looked like a ragtag collection of space junk, but each one carried enough explosives to level a city. Lee's ship, the former ice hauler Frost Queen, had been packed with so many bombs that the crew quarters were half their original size. The 17 people aboard shared sleeping shifts and 8 emergency rations that tasted like cardboard mixed with despair. Remember, Lee broadcast to a squadron, "We don't need to win this fight. We just need to make them hurt." The V responded to the approaching ships with textbook precision. Perfect formations, calculated firing solutions, coordinated defensive patterns. Everything their military doctrine demanded, which was exactly when Dr. Choi's virus activated. Suddenly, alien ships were firing on each other. Their sensors showed human battleships where only empty space existed. Communication systems translated orders into gibberish. The perfect formation dissolved into confusion as ships tried to avoid threats that weren't there while ignoring real dangers approaching from multiple directions. Lee's mining ships struck like a swarm of angry wasps. Some rammed alien vessels directly, their crews screaming battle cries over open channels until the moment of impact. Others detonated their cargo holds next to enemy ships, turning themselves into short-lived stars. The largest mining ship, Heavy Strike, was piloted by engineer Nam Tae-ho himself. He had packed his vessel with every piece of explosive material the Resistance could spare, then aimed it at the alien command ship's bridge. Nam's final transmission was calm and professional. "This is for New Busan, you crystal-faced monsters." The explosion could be seen from Earth. A brief new sun blooming near Jupiter as Heavy Strike's cargo vaporized 3 kilometers of alien superstructure. When the light faded, the Velthari command ship was drifting powerless, its perfect hull cracked open like an egg. But the humans weren't finished. Lee led the surviving ships in a second attack run, this time targeting the crippled vessel's reactor core. His crew had voted unanimously to make this a one-way trip. They armed the Frost Queen's remaining warheads and set course for the enemy flagship. "Frost Queen to all human ships," Lee transmitted as alien defensive fire began tearing his vessel apart. "Tell Earth we tried. Tell them we didn't go quietly." Then, as his ship began its final approach, "For every human child you killed, we'll drag 10 of you into hell with us." The explosion that followed destroyed both ships completely. Lee and his crew vanished in nuclear fire, but they took the alien command vessel with them, in the safety of his distant command ship. Zoltek watched the battle reports with growing horror. This wasn't warfare as his species understood it. This was madness given form and purpose. His military computers had been designed to fight civilized enemies who followed logical patterns, enemies who valued their own lives, who retreated when defeat was certain, who distinguished between military targets and civilian populations. Humans did none of these things. They turned cargo ships into weapons. They used children as soldiers. They converted hospitals into bomb factories and schools into military bases. They fought with kitchen utensils when they ran out of proper weapons, and when they ran out of kitchen utensils, they fought with their bare hands. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to take joy in their own destruction as long as they could, hurt their enemies in the process. "Computer," Zoltek ordered, his voice shaking slightly, "calculate projected casualties if current human tactics continue." The response came back immediately, unable to calculate. "Human behavioral patterns exceed all known military parameters. Recommend immediate strategic withdrawal." For the first time in galactic history, a Velthari computer was recommending retreat from a primitive species. Zoltek stared at the tactical display, watching human ships sacrifice themselves with gleeful abandon, and felt something his species had never experienced before. Fear. Admiral Park Jae-min stood in what remained of his command bunker, deep beneath the ruins of Seoul. The concrete walls were cracked, and emergency lights flickered as power systems struggled to keep working. Above him, Earth burned under alien bombardment, but down here, humanity was planning its final gamble. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked his aide, a young lieutenant whose uniform was torn and dirty from weeks of underground fighting. 47 vessels of various types, sir. Most are damaged. None are proper warships." The lieutenant's voice was steady, but his hands shook as he read from his tablet. "Cargo haulers, mining ships, research vessels, even a few passenger liners that survived the attacks." Park nodded slowly. 47 ships against a Velthari fleet that still numbered in the hundreds. It should have been hopeless, but humanity had learned that hope was a luxury they couldn't afford. "Signal all ships, Operation Final Dawn begins now." Commander Kim Hyun-woo received the message aboard Taeyang 7, his mining station that had become humanity's most unlikely warship. His crew had spent weeks welding armor plates to the hull and packing the cargo bays with every explosive they could find. The station's mining equipment had been converted into weapons, though Kim doubted they would be needed. This was a one-way mission. "All crew to battle stations," Kim announced over the station's intercom. "Remember, we're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to make them remember us." His crew was a mixture of miners, engineers, and refugees who had nowhere else to go. They had voted unanimously to turn their home into a weapon. As Kim watched them prepare for battle, he felt proud of what humans could become when everything else was stripped away. Dr. Choi Minna made final adjustments to her quantum disruptor array, now installed throughout the inner solar system on hidden platforms and damaged space stations. The devices had evolved far beyond their original design. Instead of just disrupting alien shields, they could now interfere with the fundamental quantum processes that powered Velthari technology. The mothership's core is quantum-linked to every vessel in their fleet, she explained to Admiral Park, over the communication link. If we can destabilize it, the cascade failure should disable their entire armada. And what are the chances of success? Park asked. Dr. Choi was quiet for a long moment. Unknown. We're essentially trying to cause a controlled quantum collapse in a system we barely understand. It could work perfectly, or it could tear a hole in space-time. What would you recommend, Doctor? I recommend we try it anyway. If we fail, we die. If we don't try, we die. At least this way, we might take them with us. The human fleet began its final approach as Earth's dawn broke over the Pacific. 47 vessels of different shapes and sizes, all converging on the massive Velthari mothership that hung in orbit like a dark crystal mountain. Zal Thek watched the pathetic human armada approach and felt confusion rather than concern. His ship alone was larger than their entire fleet. His weapons could destroy them all in minutes. What did these creatures hope to accomplish? Incoming transmission from the human fleet, reported his communications officer. Display it, Admiral. Park's face appeared on the main screen. The human looked tired and scarred, but his eyes burned with determination that made Zolthek uncomfortable. This is Admiral Park Jimin of Earth Defense Command. You wanted our world. Come and take it from our corpses. The transmission ended, and immediately the human ships began their final charge. They came in no formation, following no tactical doctrine that Zolthek could understand. Some flew straight at his ship, while others spiraled in random patterns. Several exploded prematurely, turning themselves into clouds of radioactive debris that interfered with Velthari sensors. Commander Kim drove Taiyang 7 straight through the alien defensive line, his mining station's armor plates glowing red-hot under enemy fire. His crew sang an old Korean folk song as they approached the mothership's command section, their voices echoing through the station's corridors, even as hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. For our children, Kim whispered as his station struck the crystal hull of Zolthek's ship. The impact was visible from Earth's surface, a brilliant flash that lit up the night sky. Taiyang 7 buried itself deep in the alien vessel's superstructure, its cargo of mining explosives detonating in a chain reaction that tore through deck after deck of alien technology. But it was Dr. Choi's quantum disruptors that delivered the killing blow. As the mothership's hull cracked and its systems failed, the quantum cascade began. Energy patterns that had powered Velthari technology for millennia suddenly became unstable. Ships throughout their fleet began losing power as their quantum cores flickered and died. Zoltek felt his perfect ship shudder and groan as fundamental forces turned against each other. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red illumination as his officers reported system failures throughout the vessel. Retreat, he ordered, his voice barely a whisper. Signal, all ships. Full retreat, immediately. The surviving Velthari vessels fled Earth's orbit in panic, leaving behind their damaged mothership and hundreds of dead crew members. As they jumped to faster-than-light travel, they broadcast warnings to every alien civilization in the galaxy. The humans were death-seekers, madness given form. They could not be conquered because they would destroy themselves and their enemies, rather than accept defeat. Any species that encountered them should avoid contact at all costs. Admiral Park stood in the ruins of his command center, watching alien ships disappear into the star-filled darkness. Earth was devastated, its cities in ruins, 4 billion people dead, but humanity endured in her hidden laboratory. Dr. Choi powered up captured Valthari navigation equipment and studied star charts that showed the locations of alien worlds. The enemy had made one crucial mistake. They had shown humanity that it was not alone in the universe. Now it was time to return the visit. As she plotted courses to distant stars, Dr. Choi smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you woke humanity's wrath.